up close and personal with suicidality. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Teen Talk Live. We've had a few minutes delay there while we get our technical difficulties sorted out. I'm your host, Ann Dillard, and I am so glad to be here with you to wrap up this month of observing National Suicide Prevention and Awareness, right? And I am so excited to have. Let me mute this. Wrap up this month. I'm gonna mute this, and I'm gonna set this up so I can see your comments. Again, I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. We are going to go a little closer and up close and personal with talking about suicidality. And when I say suicidality, what does that mean? That means thoughts of suicide. That means attempting suicide. That means having a plan. So it basically means anything that has to do with suicide. And tonight, I want to make sure that I observe our sponsor, Joseph Dillard, who's a financial consultant. He has sponsored this month of Teen Talk Live, and I'm so excited about it. Joseph has been in financial services for over 30 years. He is my husband, so yeah, we have the same name.
Yes.
And he says, I don't sell products, I provide solutions for individuals and families so that they can save more money, decrease their debt, protect their income, and become financially free. So Joseph is our sponsor. You can find out more about him at xbankerblog.com or xbankerblog on Facebook. So you want to check him out and get some help with your financial services, right? And if you want to be a sponsor of Teen Talk Live, you know we are real here on Teen Talk Live. We bring topics that really matters to people in raising their teenagers. So if you want to be a sponsor, inbox me or drop a message in the comments and we'll be sure to acknowledge you. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our guests. Welcome to our viewers. Krista, thank you for being here. Sands, thanks for being here. Monica, thanks for being here. Sister Sandy, you're here with us. Patricia, thank you for being here. Joseph, you are here. And I'm so excited. I'm going to ask you to share this out, invite people to come have this conversation with us because we are going up close and personal with suicide tonight. So my first guest, I want you to help me welcome my sister, co-author of Unchain My Legacy, and that's none other than Miss Michelle Mickey Jones. Welcome, Michelle.
Hey, yes, thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm so glad you were able to join at the last minute too.
Yes.
Right? See,
always be ready. That's what we're taught. Always be ready.
Right. And we hashtag the 12 because we show up for each other, and I appreciate you for being here. And Gina, thanks for being here. And then we have Mercedes, the author Johnson, and Mercedes is one of my young mentees, and she's been in my life for a number of years, and I'm so happy that she was able to join us to share her story on Teen Talk Live. Welcome, Mercedes.
Thank you. Hello.
Okay, I'm so glad you're here. I think we have a little delay, but we're going to keep moving. So as you join us, please let us know that you're here. Hey, Tatan, glad you're here with us. All right, so, okay, I was muted. Let us know you're here. Share this video out. Invite somebody to join us because this is a very powerful conversation we're going to have. So I'm going to start off with some self-disclosure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off reading for a part of my chapter in Unchain My Legacy. This is the newly released Amazon #1 bestseller anthology by Audra R. Upchurch, and Michelle and I are co-authors in this. So my chapter starts out like this. I can still see the image of myself on that warm summer day. At only 13, I stood bent over the large tank of water, which was completely covered with wire, except for the small opening section to access the water. Earlier that day, I had announced, I'll just kill myself. Standing there in the middle of our yard, I contemplated whether or not to jump in. I can hear voices in the distance saying, go ahead. So I'm getting some feedback from somebody. So that is how I started off my chapter in Unchain My Legacy. And we'll drop the link in the comment section if you wanna read what happened. So what I can say is, hey, Miss Beverly, hey, Robin Brown, thanks for being here. What I can say is I'm glad that I didn't follow through with that plan, right? And this is something that plagues our society. So many people, day in and day out, people struggle with thoughts of suicide, and for every action, every suicide that's completed, there are at least 25 attempts, especially in females, right? Males are more lethal and they execute more often. Females have more attempts. And so we have a female panel here, and if you have experience with this, just let us know in the comments section, and we'll be happy to hear your story. So let's start with Mercedes. Mercedes, what do you want to share with our audience about your experience with this? Tell us about what time of your life was this and what was going on?
For sure, for sure. So I would say the first time I thought about committing suicide, I was probably in, I want to say, 8th grade. When I was younger, I was molested. I was molested by my stepfather for, I want to say, 3 to 4 years. And when it happened, or after it happened, should I say, I tried to suppress the memories. I tried to suppress that experience, should I say. But as I got older, the memories would come back, and I would have nightmares and things of that nature. And the nightmares were surrounded around of him coming back. It was like him coming back to finish what he was doing. And so fear and anxiety gripped me, and my way of escaping it or trying to get away was the thought of just committing suicide. And I remember like writing letters, thinking about the way I was going to do it. It was crazy, but I would say the first thought was 8th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your story. And I know you've done a lot of work around this and you've written about it and things like that.
Yes, ma'am.
But how courageous of you to have endured all of this and you're still standing, right?
Yes, ma'am. Amen.
I know, right? So 8th grade is like one of the toughest time in one's life, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
how did you even navigate being at school dealing with 3 to 4 years of molestation going on?
To be honest, now that I think about it, I don't even know. Like I said, I suppressed it. I just tried to suppress it. And once the nightmares was coming, the thoughts was coming, it was something that just like really shook my core because I tried to forget about it. And so my way, I would say, I started just writing. And to a point where I was just like, yo, the only way to escape from this was to just end it all. I think like many other people who probably deal with the thought of suicide, I dealt with a lot of depression, extremely depressed. Yeah, extremely depressed. Always wore black, just very unhappy, just so unhappy. And I just wrote. I did a lot of writing.
How did your depression show up, Mercedes? Were you like just withdrawn, or were you overly active? Were you angry? How did your depression show up?
I'm a quiet person, but with the depression, I just shut down. Like, and I was very sad. It was an unusual sad. I can be around people and I will talk, but the minute I was by myself, I was like just angry, sad. It was just I just shut the talk. Didn't have the words to express what I was going through because I didn't know what I was going through. You can articulate, exactly what. Remember one time someone asked me, like, "Are you going to a funeral?" And I'm like, "No." But I always wore black, and I was just like cooped up in a shell.
My goodness. Wow. Well, thank you for your courage, and thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
the audience is just sending you lots of love and saying, thanks for your openness and your
Yeah.
transparency. Hey, Mel, I'm so glad you can join us.
Oh, amen.
We are going up and close talking about suicidality, and that's anything that has to do with suicide, the plans, the thoughts. And Jatan said suicidal thoughts and attempts are more likely to occur during the school year. Yes, Jatan.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those happen during transitional points
Mm-hmm.
of the school. So, like, you have a child that's going to the sixth grade, that's a huge transition. Somebody that's going to the ninth grade, that's another huge transition and a lot of unknowns. And so those are key points for parents to look out. So Mercedes, I'm gonna have you to hold your story right there, and I'm gonna come back and
Amen.
talk about the adults in your life and what did they notice and what did they do. So Miss Michelle, welcome again to Teen
Yes.
Live. Wasn't that? I mean, that's just heart wrenching to hear this story.
Not so much as heart wrenching, but heartfelt because mine started in similarly the same way with the abuse and the suppression. But my first attempt wasn't until I was maybe in my mid 20s.
Okay.
I suppressed it for a very long time. And there was a period in time, and again, all through junior high school and through high school, just severe depression, but nobody recognized it in me, and I didn't recognize it in myself. So I didn't even know I was depressed. And I just kept going through life and going through life. And then my mother said something really horrible to me, and the reality of her words hit me. And I literally, that was the first time that I slit my wrist.
Mm.
Because if my mother couldn't love me, can't nobody love me.
Wow.
And all of those years of suppression and all of the molestation and the abuse just came out in that one silent moment. And if it wasn't for my grandmother, honestly, because this is how good it had gotten. I had researched the right way to slit your wrist.
Mm.
And that way I knew that I would do it right,
Mm.
that there would be no mistake about what I was doing, and there would be no after effects. Nobody would have to pick me up, clean up behind me. It was all planned, it was all good. And I do believe, I want to say I was about 24, 25.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. Yes, it's heartfelt. Yes, Jatan, those ACEs, and we're going to talk about the adverse childhood experiences. Hey, Shania, thank you for being here. Beverly Ann, thank you for being here. Beverly Andrews, thanks for being here. These ladies are pouring their hearts out and they are sharing because the hope is that somebody will be
Mhm.
impacted by this. Somebody will pay attention to that young person who doesn't know how to articulate the pain that they're
Mhm.
right. And so I appreciate them being here and being so transparent about their experiences with suicide attempts. Okay, share this video out, invite somebody, make sure we get the word out because this is serious and it's real, right?
Yes, it is.
So Michelle, when I mean I could feel you when you said my mother said something so painful that it was like I just want to end it. Now there is a thought that a lot of times when people cut, they don't necessarily want to end it. They just want to stop the pain. What was your intention when you slit your wrist?
I really I wanted both. I wanted to end it, and I knew if I ended it, the pain would stop. And like I said, I had researched, and it's amazing. The internet was just getting good by then, and it was amazing that I could actually find a medical journal that actually showed the right angle and the right positioning that you could use to slit your wrist. And right now I'm thinking like, wow, that's medical, so we can't shut it down. But as parents, we need to pay attention to what our children are researching.
Absolutely,
We
because
really need to pay attention when they get that silent moment and when they shut down and they become isolated and all they want is their room. You need to go in there and see what they're looking at, check their browser history and see what information they're researching.
so true. And baby sister says hello. Hey, baby sister, glad you're here with us. Hey, Sammy, thanks for joining us. And Bunny, thanks for being here with us. Latunji, thanks for being here. So we are being seen all over the world, you all. And I think this is so important to send this message out because it's not just confined to just the United States.
Yeah.
Suicide is real everywhere, everywhere, and people are looking for answers. People are looking for help. People are looking for hope. And I love the idea, Michelle, of not just letting your children isolate themselves because the internet, you can find out anything you want on the internet,
Anything.
step by step
Mhm.
process on how to do this. And so we have to be vigilant about what our children are seeing. So Mercedes, who noticed that you were
Yes, ma'am.
who noticed what you were going through?
When I got into high school, I kind of like Miss Michelle, I started cutting. And I was in a support group, but no one noticed at the time because I wore a lot of long sleeve shirts. And I remember talking with a lady and like, I feel like I should tell you this. And I'm like, what? And she mentioned how she was molested by a friend of the family. And at first I didn't say anything. And I want to say like a week later, I went back into her office and I told her what had happened to me. And I think I lifted up my sleeve and I just had all these cuts. And I think she was the first person that I um, I
I think I'm losing.
showed wanted to, because like I said, I was very quiet. I was very isolated since I would cry. Really. Could you hear me?
Okay, I think I'm losing you a little bit. The internet is going in and out.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Mercedes. All right. I'm not hearing you. But I'm gonna continue the conversation. If you go out and come back in,
okay. I
so,
can hear you.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So Jatan said an estimated 250,000 people
I can do that.
become suicide survivors, and that is so true. Again, one that's executed, there's at least 25 attempts, especially girls. And so Mercedes, somebody said, I didn't know children of color cut until I worked in a psych unit at Prairie.
Wow.
And that is a great misconception that children of color don't cut. Yes, children of color cut and do other bodily harm. That's a great misconception.
Exactly.
Yes. So Mercedes, you were telling me before we lost you, you were saying this woman at your school in the 9th grade happened to share her story with you. And you heard her, you didn't say anything, but you come back a week later, and then what?
So I came back a week later, and I remember I shared my story with her, and I mentioned to her how I too was molested. In the midst of that, I remember just lifting up my my sleeve, and I just had all of these cuts. And I remember, you know, she calling the I think she called like child protection, and really just started helping me, you know, and I showed it to her because it was a cry for help. And as I stated before, I was so quiet and so isolated that no one around me noticed it. And it was until she told her story and I went back to her and told her and just showed her the cuts. Yeah.
So in that moment, let me ask you this, because a lot of times, you know, like Michelle, you might be able to identify with this too, but a lot of times as a clinician who worked in the school for years, I find a lot of people having difficulty sharing that they're going through certain things because they don't want, you know, DFACS or DCFS, or they don't want you to report it, and they know that you are a mandated reporter. So in that moment when she reported it, what did you feel, and what did you go through? What was that experience like for you?
I was angry. I was really, really, really mad. I didn't want to talk to her no more. I didn't want to talk to the people. In the beginning, when they was asking me questions, I remember I lied. I was like, no, she's lying. That's not true. Because at the time, my family did not know. They didn't know. No one knew. And so I was very upset. Very upset. Very.
Yeah. Because I imagine you probably felt betrayed by another adult.
Another person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's real, and that's something we have to deal with when we are asking young people to disclose to us. You know, we want to help them. This is how we're going to help them, but it doesn't feel like help in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So Michelle, tell me about, how did you get help? How did that come about?
Well, like I said, my grandmother recognized that I had been in the bathroom a little bit too long, and she didn't hear me crying anymore. And next thing I know, I was in the hospital. And after that particular moment and that particular episode, it was like, you got two choices. And my grandmother was very no nonsense. She said, you either talk to me or you talk to somebody. And regardless of who you talk to, you're going to tell it all. So I actually, as a mother, by that time I had 3 children. I was on my way to my fourth, and to go back and relive my childhood and to tell that as an adult, wow. It was like, okay. So we found a very nice clinician, and I just started talking. But all of those emotions that Mercedes just mentioned, they don't just happen to teenagers or young people that think that you've been betrayed. They happen to adults as well. Because you look back and you say, oh my God, they were grown, they should have known. And then you get angry all over again at the grown people that were grown when you were going through but didn't know that should have known.
Wow. That's pretty profound, because you are right. It's not just children. I saw some statistics last week when I was at a training that the youngest age of a person who committed suicide in Georgia was 7 years old. Right? But we're talking about young people, but older people don't have the resources or the skills to know what to do, right? And so kudos to your grandma for saying, no, this is not happening. It's not going down like that. And so I'm just really excited that somebody paid attention, right?
And it's a very hard thing to do when you're a child of transition, which is what I was. One year I lived with my grandmother, one year I lived with my other grandmother, one year I lived with my mother, one year I lived with my father. So my address was never the same. So I was in a position where I was always making new friends, and I really wasn't making any friends at all.
Right.
Because I didn't know how long I was going to stay. So it was easier just not to commit to anything.
Wow.
And that in itself didn't help the depression. It helped the suppression, but it didn't help the depression. So now that I'm grown and I'm experiencing all of these childish things, these childish feelings that could have been addressed when I was a child, I'm now addressing them as an adult. So it doesn't matter your age per se, the number, it's all about your mental state. And my emotional mental state had never grown up from being a child, not from being neglected, not from being abused, not from being rejected. So by the time the suicide attempt happened, it was time to get some help.
Right. So what I hear you saying, Michelle, you might have been 24 when the attempt happened, but literally because you had not matured emotionally because of those suppressed feelings, you were very immature in your feelings, your emotions, and dealing with
Mhm.
it.
You can take 10 years off of that and put me back at 14.
Wow.
I literally started writing. I am a writer. I literally started writing at the age of 14. And I still have my poetry that I wrote when I was 14. And for me to go back now as a grown, mature, healed adult and to read what I wrote when I was 14, I could see my distress now, but I didn't know it then. So even at 24, I was still 14.
Isn't that something? Now we're joined by my friend Dr. Riel, and he's a neuroscience scientist. And Dr. Riel, I'm so glad that you are here with us. That's Dr. Riel Sims. Um, Michelle is talking about her brain development and how she was 14, but really, when you look at her and her emotions, she was only 14. She was 24, but in reality she was not as her chronological age. So can you share some insights with us in the comments? If you can, drop some insights in the comments for us so that we can better understand this. And I'm so glad that we're joined by other folks. We have Catrice here. Catrice, I'm so glad you're joining us. I know you work with a lot of young people and you
Mm-hmm.
probably do this day in, day out. Thank you all for the engagement. Remember to pass this out. And Beverly said, I wanted to kill myself at one point. So, Beverly, I'm so glad that you did not do it. And
Mm-hmm.
drop in your comment. Let us know how. How? How did you make that through? And
Right.
Dr. Sims said you didn't allow yourself permission to mature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about all that trauma, Michelle. I'm thinking about all that trauma, Mercedes, and everybody else who survived the suicide. I'm thinking about how our brains didn't develop in appropriate ways, and I
Mm-hmm.
think about how we didn't allow ourselves to mature. We couldn't.
We didn't know how.
Exactly.
That's that's something that we don't teach our children, how to think in a mature fashion. And that's one of the reasons we lose them a lot. We give them a lot of freedoms and allow them to make their own choices. But as parents, as caregivers, there is a line that needs to be drawn with that freedom and that independence, because there are some things that need to be taught. You need to be taught to have rational thoughts and to recognize irrational thoughts. You need to be taught how to accept rejection and not feel rejected. So you can't learn what you
Amen.
don't know.
Amen.
That's right. And if you have a distracted parent who doesn't even know these things
Hmm.
themselves, right?
Right.
You're trying to figure it out on your own. Because I'm thinking about, like you said, Michelle, the freedom, the level of freedom that we allow our children, and a critical part of their brain is not even yet developed, and
Hmm.
that's their prefrontal cortex that
Right.
helps them to navigate these things and these choices. But that's not developed, right? And I hope I'm talking in a way that my audience can understand, because with that not
Hmm.
being developed, we make some bad choices,
Hmm.
Amen.
right? So
They become irrational.
exactly, exactly. And so it's important, like you said, that we be the prefrontal cortex for our kids and not
Hmm.
allow them so much freedom without the the responsibility
Right.
that comes with that, right? So Mercedes,
Amen.
I think about all the young women who look up to you and all the young women who are watching you, and
Amen.
what you said about being angry at that teacher that after all these years of holding in your
Hmm.
secret, and you disclose to her and feeling betrayed.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about all the young women who are going through similar things, and I wonder, what can you say to them about this experience?
That's very heavy. What can I say to them about this experience? Um, I would say it's kind of along the lines of what Miss Michelle was saying. Because even though I spoke or talked or I would say exposed it, revealed it to the lady in ninth grade, it took until I was an adult to really deal with it. And so kind of like with what Miss Michelle was saying, even though I was in my 20s, I had to, in a sense, relive it in a sense,
Hmm.
and deal with the child in me that was still angry, that felt like it was my fault. And then, the whole, it was a soul tie, because it happened for so long in my mind. Like my stepdad at the time, he would always tell me that what he was doing was love, and so I had to, in a sense, go back to the child in me and really pray for that soul tie to be broken. And I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive him. I had to forgive my mother. Like what Miss Michelle was saying, I was upset because I'm like, where were you? Why didn't you see what was going on? So I had to go through a journey of forgiving, telling myself that, you know, it wasn't your fault. You wasn't wearing too tight clothes that made him do this, you know. So it was a really forgiving myself, forgiving him. And I remember it got to a point, I wrote him on Facebook years later. I remember God telling me, go back and tell him why you forgive him, acknowledge it. And that was hard because it was easy for me to say, hey, I forgive you and walk away. But it was harder for me to say, this is why I forgive you, because in that moment, I had to relive it again. And so I would say this journey, the journey of really forgiving, really acknowledging, really telling the child in me that, baby, it was not your fault and it wasn't mommy's fault. And it was a journey of forgiving myself, forgiving him, a journey of forgiving. And I say a journey because it wasn't one day and it was over, but it was 1 year I was good, and then the next year I was angry all over again. So a journey of forgiving and healing, constantly acknowledging when I was being triggered and acknowledging my triggers. And when the triggers would come, it was like, okay, you're upset right now because of this, you know. So it's just this whole journey of constant forgiving and constant healing.
Wow.
That was a lot, but yeah.
It was the truth.
That's true. That is true. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure the journey continues because
Yes, it still continues.
like we shared, you know, that child in you is growth is stunted.
Yeah.
And you don't know how, you don't live your quote unquote normal childhood. So as an adult, you're figuring out how to do those things that might
exactly.
You know, it might seem maladaptive to other people, but you're still on your course. It might not be chronologically right, but emotionally it's the path that you have to take through your healing. That is wow. Thank you for sharing that. So, so Michelle, talk to the mothers who might miss the signs.
Well, I wouldn't so much say as miss the signs, because again, you can't miss what you don't see. And that might sound contradictory, but if you're not used to looking at depression to understand what depression is, you don't see it as depression. A lot of us live a normal, abnormal life and call it functional.
That's true.
You know, we go through life and there's chaos all around us at all times, and we consider that normal. And when there isn't chaos, that's abnormal. So these are patterns that we are inadvertently taught that aren't real and they're not right. So to mothers, my thing is just be vigilant. It's okay to give your children their sense of freedom. And that's exactly what it is. It's a sense of freedom. But a 14-year-old is not responsible enough to be independent. And this is where your parenting has to come in. And even if that means that you need to go get counseling to help you to understand, you know, the normal patterns of adolescence, you need to do that. And as parents, my biggest thing to you, if you don't know, ask somebody. There is such a stigma attached to depression and suicide and molestation and abuse, domestic violence. We have to get past the stigma. It's
Amen.
not easy. No one said it would be, but it's necessary. And if
Amen.
you can get past the stigma to ask the difficult question, and sometimes the difficult question is, what do I do? And it's okay to ask, what do I do? Because you don't know. You don't know. And a lot of our trauma as adults, we miss in our children because we haven't dealt with our own.
Wow. Wow. That's good stuff. And that leads me
That's so
to
good.
talk about in our book, Unchain My Legacy. We talk about how owning our choices free us and those we love,
Mhm.
because we miss the trauma in our own youth, and we don't deal with it. And so when we come face to face with it in our children, we don't know what to do.
And we
Mm,
don't want to believe it. We
And we
don't want to
mm,
believe, and then you pile on the guilt as
don't
an adult. Oh my God, how did I miss this? Oh my God,
exactly.
this can't be true. No, this can't be happening again. And then you're right back to
mm,
being that child in you.
And relive
mm.
it over and over and over again. And that is so key. That is so key. Dr. Sims said right here, he said, not forgiving is like stabbing yourself hoping the other person would bleed.
Yes,
Mm,
yes.
mm,
Wow.
And we do that a lot. We do things in a revengeful way, thinking
mm,
that if we cause enough pain, they will hurt. No, they won't. They're not
mhm,
about it anymore. They're gone and moved on to the next one, it's a shame to say. Okay.
mhm,
But we steady do things to get back and to hurt and all we do is hurt ourselves. So
Unfortunately,
yeah, it's like stabbing yourself trying to make them bleed.
that's a really good metaphor. It's that unforgiveness
Right.
really causes us a lot of pain, a lot of pain compounded by the acts that has been
Hmm.
perpetuated against us, and then
Right.
that forgiveness. But then if nobody is there to teach you what to
mhm,
do or
Exactly.
forgive, that could be really, really a difficult journey.
mhm,
And then that's where Mercedes' piece comes in with our youngsters because there's no one to teach you at home. So the next place that you spend the
mhm,
majority of your time is at school. But then you go to
mhm.
school and you find someone that you trust, and then they begin to teach you, but then you also feel like they betray you, so they're no different than home. So you shut down again.
That is
Exactly. Mhm,
that is so true. And it's it's a painful journey, but sometimes help doesn't
mhm,
look the way that it
mhm.
should look.
Amen. Uh-huh.
It might look like betrayal. It might look like,
Hmm.
here again, another adult, that I finally, after 4 years, I finally opened up, and this person
And this is
wants
what
me
they do.
away, and is betraying me. But it's help.
Hmm.
Amen.
It's
But
help.
then again, we never knew what help looked like.
Because
We
Exactly.
in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
smile and act like everything is okay, and what's done in the
Mhm.
house stays in the house.
They, oh Lord Jesus.
Stays in the house.
I wish that could be erased from everybody's memory. If we
Everybody.
had an automatic world eraser, what goes on in this house stays in
In
this
the
house.
house. Stays in
Erase
this
it.
house. Oh, I hate that.
Erase it. Open
Mm.
the door and let all that crap out.
Amen.
It's killing us, and not just the individuals, but it
The
kills
entire family.
Yeah.
generations. what's done in the house stays in the house.
Oh, Jesus.
You know, and it's something because we that's in therapy we call it maladaptive behaviors.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily know that, and we are loyal because of our loyalty to our parents. We the last thing we want to
Exactly.
betray them. That's the last.
And if we didn't learn anything else as children, we learned the system. We
Yep.
learned that if we spoke, that we would be removed. We learned that if we spoke, that our parents would be arrested. We learned that if we spoke, we would have to go live someplace else and never see our siblings. We learned that if we spoke, we would always wear that scarlet letter and nobody would ever see us without it. Those are the things that we learned. Those were all of the wrong things. But
Amen.
then nobody taught us the right thing.
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
Amen.
And you know, it's something that you would say that because when I have young people to come to therapy, I also let the parents know that, you know, they might share some stuff with me that might, you know, be against you because you have chosen this safe place for them. And what my goal is here is to help teach them healthy coping skills,
Right.
a healthy way of living. And
Yes.
it might not look like how you would teach it.
Right.
Amen. Amen.
But we do need to change our language. We need to change our narrative. We need to change what we're saying to our children and
Yes.
actually say, if you feel like you need help, here is who and who and who you can go to for help.
Right.
Amen.
Offer them that resource. If it's not me, if you can't talk to me, go talk to such and such. Matter of fact, let me put a therapist on retainer for you. People think, oh, that's so, no, you don't need to do that. Yes, you do. Because with this day and age, the way that our children are so influenced by so many outside forces, we don't know what's going on in their mind.
That's so
And
true.
because we don't keep up with the language, we don't know. They can be talking to us in a whole different language and we think it's English.
That's the truth.
You know, we think it's English. So be parent enough. Be responsible as a parent enough to say to your child, look, I know something's going on with you. And if you can't talk to me, here's a number for someone that you can talk to. Here is a resource that you can use to get that out. Because I would rather you say it to someone than do something to harm yourself because of it.
Amen. Amen.
And then reassure them that they're not going to get in trouble.
Oh, Lord, please tell them they're not in trouble. Please tell them they are not in trouble. You are not going to get in trouble for saying how you feel. You need to be respectful when you do it and mind your manners, but you are not going to get in trouble, at least not from me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's something I always have to remind my parents. You know, I sit there and I said, do they know, does your child, can you reassure your child that he or she has permission to share without fear of getting in trouble?
Repercussions are difficult. The repercussions in themselves scare the child. That's where their biggest fear comes in. Oh my God, my mom is not going to like me. Oh my God, my dad is going to leave. Oh my God, there's so many stressful fears that come along with, so they keep it. They keep it, they suppress it, they bury it, and then the next thing comes along, and then the next thing comes along, and the fear of the repercussion. Oh my God, is she going to beat me? Oh my God, is he going to yell at me? Am I going to be on punishment? But they told me to tell, but they're not listening.
Yeah.
We need to change that narrative.
Yes. Or even, you know, sometimes, you know, the beating, you will want the beating over feeling like you don't belong.
Just beat me to show me you love me.
Yeah.
you know, it feeling like you don't want me anymore, or I don't belong to you anymore, you know. And
If that's the only way you can show me attention, please beat me. That is so, that is a warped sense of love.
Yeah.
But that's the way most of our children feel.
yes, yes. And we've got to do better as parents. We have
Yeah.
got to do better. And I'm not saying this is in all households. I'm not
No,
saying,
not all households. But
no,
let's go back to the statistics. For
yes,
every one completion, there's 25 tries.
absolutely.
So there's
Absolutely.
25 households
Mm.
that feel like this. So look
Absolutely.
at the person next to you. Look at the person on the right, on the left. Think about 3 people that you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then count 25 for each one of them.
And
Mm.
sometimes, Michelle, the sad part about it is sometimes the 25 attempts is one person.
On one person.
Yeah.
On
So
one person.
it's pretty drastic, and this is something we need to take seriously. So I'm so glad that we have so many people that joined us tonight. Um, Dr. Riel is still here with us.
Yeah.
Lori says, hello. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Jackie Whitaker. Mel is still with us. Jaquetta joined us. Thank you for being here with us. Mary is with us. I'm so glad that you joined us in this conversation, because
Amen.
this is something that affects all our kids. You might say my kid is fine, but your kid is still affected by this, because if there's a suicide in the community or suicide in
Mm-hmm.
school, he or she is affected
It's
by it.
affected by it.
And
Mm-hmm.
if your child is fine, and we pray that your child is, they have a friend. Teach them what
Yeah.
to look for in their friend.
Amen.
If their relationship with their friend has changed and has declined, and their friend is pulling away from them, teach your child to notice the signs in their friend.
That's good.
Amen.
Really good. That's really good. So if you we're getting ready to wrap up, but if you have any questions, drop it in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who have been up close and personal. I'm so glad that I made it through the teenage years with
Oh,
that bout, with not feeling like I
Amen.
belong, and wanting to commit suicide, because I feel like, one, I feel like it'll stop the pain, but two, I felt like it would get back at the people who were making me not
encourage
feel
you.
like I belong,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that is, that's a heavy weight to carry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy burden to carry. And we've done these shows this whole month of September because we want to bring awareness, and we want to continue to have these conversations, because it's necessary. It's necessary. So, for my guests, I want you to tell people how they can reach you, how they can find out more information. So, Michelle, tell them how they can get the book, how they can reach you for speaking engagements and all the good stuff that you're doing.
Well, right now, I am actually in the midst of launching my next book, which is Learning to Live Healthy, a Lupus Survivor Story.
Wow.
And I actually talk about how depression is a
Amen.
symptom of lupus,
Mm.
and how I had to, now, mind you, I had already had the first attempt at 24. I'm now 33 and I have lupus, and now depression is back again. And now I'm thinking suicide again, but for a whole different reason.
Wow.
Wow.
So in my book, Learning to Live Healthy, a Lupus Survivor Story, it's available now. And you can reach me at Michelle, Michele.Jones at sisterskeeper.com. And sister is SISTASKEEPER. And I will be happy to answer any questions. Any questions. I'm not afraid of any part of my life. I am so not afraid. If you have a question, ask me. And if I can't answer it, that means I haven't addressed it within myself yet.
Wow.
Because healed people help people.
I love that. I love
Amen.
that. And Mercedes Arthur Johnson, tell us how we can reach you and where we can find your products.
Amen, amen. So right now, I'm reconstructing my website. So right now, I don't have a website. However, you can always reach me on Facebook, author Mercedes Johnson. You can also reach me on Instagram, which is also author underscore Mercedes Johnson. And then you can reach me via email if you would like, which is also author Mercedes Johnson at gmail.com. You can purchase my book personally through me when you either reach me by one of those social medias. And my book is also on Amazon. It's titled First Story, Breaking Through Darkness. So yeah.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask both you ladies to put your link, put the information, your contact information in the comment. And for those of you who want to purchase this book, you can read about my story. I started off reading a part of it about when I was contemplating suicide, one of the times that I was contemplating suicide. And you can also read Michelle's story, part of Michelle's story in here. And you can get that at www.unchainmylegacy.com. And I will also put that in the comments. But before I leave, I want to invite you also to join my Facebook group for mothers and daughters, where we have
Mhm.
constant
Definitely.
conversations about mother-daughter relationships, how to look at recognizing our own faults, our own mistakes, how to repair, and how to be in right relationship with each other. And that's on Facebook at Authentic Mother Daughter Relationships. Authentic Mother Daughter Relationships. It's a good group, and we're building to heal that mother daughter relationship and to strengthen the bond. I have been your host for this evening, Ann Dillard. I'm so glad that you have joined us and participated in this amazing conversation. If you're joining us on the replay, remember to share this out with your audience. Let's spread the word. And I'm so grateful for my guests who have shared so much of their stories. Thank you all so much for being so open and for being so transparent with your stories and allowing us to bear witness to your stories. God bless you all and have a good night.